In this video, I'm going to be talking about what I call rubber legs training, and this is building the strength and mobility in the leg joints. And you could call this snake style Kung Fu, but it's not a particular style, it's really the ability to use your body like a snake. So you've got to strengthen the feet, the ankles, the knees and the hips. But it's the mobility in the hips and the ankles that gives the rubber legs effect. The knees are actually held quite strong. And you can see this leads up to drunken legs or drunken snake style, where you're using relaxation and flow to create movement. And this is very efficient. I'm trying to get force and effortless force. So in this video, I'll be showing this and talking about it. Let's get on with it. Hi there, and welcome to Body Efficiency Training. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about building the strength and mobility in the leg joints. And now this is very important for our overall efficiency training, because efficiency is based on three things. It's based on, first, correct alignment, second, the correct application of tension into the joints to give strength to that alignment, and third, relaxation. And relaxation is required to allow you to move and move freely between alignments. Now, the way I see it, the highest form of Kung Fu training is going to be snake style Kung Fu. And I don't mean just any old particular snake style set of forms. I mean the ability to use your body like a snake. You must have complete connection between all your joints. In other words, complete control of your entire kinetic chain from the core outwards, and then be able to flow movements or waves through that kinetic chain like a snake. And I also call this peristaltic motion, which is the health benefits of this, because peristaltis is squeezing fluids along a tube, and as you move and wave and flow like a snake, what you're also doing is moving fluids from the core outwards through your limbs. You're moving the blood, the lymphatic fluid, and ultimately also the bone marrow, which we've talked about in previous videos. But this ability to move like a snake, in fact you will be 5 snakes. Your first snake is going to be the spine. So the spine needs to have complete mobility and ability to flow and move under dynamic tension like a snake. Then you're going to have 2 arms. Each arm, each limb has got to flow like a snake. And you have to have the connectivity between the joints present. And this I also call dynamic tendon isometrics. And the same for the 2 legs. The 2 legs have got to be fluid and flow smoothly like a snake. So you don't really have separate joints anymore. You have multiple joints going along. You have a fluidity to you. And it's not just for show or to look good. There must be power behind it. And ultimately this is the most efficient power you can generate. And you will be able to generate a lot of power if you could do this correctly. Because the spine is very, very strong. But you need to hold it in the right alignment and under the correct dynamic tension in order to create and release that power. So this is useful in striking martial arts and in particular actual snake style fighting. But it's also useful in wrestling and all types of martial arts. Because in wrestling, you've got to be able to wriggle on the floor, move your spine like a snake to get yourself in and out of positions and generate force in a surprising manner against your opponent. And in time, we'll do more groundwork with this snake style wriggling. So let's have a look through the video. So this first exercise I'm doing, I call rubber legs get-ups. So I'm practicing going down and getting up from a spring in my hips and my ankles, going all the way to the toes and the ball of the foot. And you see I've also got to get the center line, the line of gravity correct. So my feet have got to be as far back as possible and my hands have got to be as far forward as possible, so that I'm pushing from the tip of my toes through the center line, my center of gravity just below the navel, and then I can get up easily. If the alignment of gravity is not right, then this becomes impossible to do. So it requires a bit of mobility, a bit of flexibility, but there's not much pressure put on the knees. The work is done in the ankles and the hips, And this takes a lot of time and practice to get right, because you've got to be very careful of the knees. And here I'm doing a more difficult one, twisting legs get up, or rubber legs, twisting rubber legs get ups, I call it. So you've got to twist all the way around to get down, and then twist up to get up again. Now this you've got to be very careful of the knees, but you see what I'm practicing is the full range of motion in the hip joint and the ankles, and even going onto the side of the foot. So all the rotation has got to be taken in the ankles and the foot and the hips. And the knees have got to be held very tight so you don't put a twist on the knees. So again, this could be getting a bit smoother, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to do. It'd be nice to get smooth, totally smooth get up. But getting up and going down is one of the body efficiency practices that I do. All different ways to get up and go down very, very easily. They've got to be easy, smooth and easy. And so getting up, whatever height I'm at, should make no difference to the effort in my body. Now here you see a bit more strengthening of the feet. So I'm going onto the knuckles of the foot, and this gives a strong stretch in the front of the shin bone. But again, I've got to lock up the ankles very tight and control from the hips and the ankles, very careful not to overstretch the knee. And you can see here in this one, the cantilever, I'm pushing my hips backwards to try and balance. So I'm cantilevering at the hips, and I'm actually also cantilevering at the ankles. So you see contemporary dancers do this a bit, but I haven't seen many Kung Fu people do that. Now here again I'm moving left and right into a deep stance, but now this looks a bit like dancing, but this is surprisingly difficult. I'm on the ball of my foot, so I'm not going flat-footed. I'm trying to feel the alignment all the way to the ball of the foot, so I've got a spring in the ankle, and trying to feel the full stretch through the hip, up through my spine, and then out into the arms. So I'm gradually and moving around as I do it. As you move around, if you try this, you'll see it's surprisingly difficult to balance staying on the tip of your toe, or rather the ball of your foot. And now again, I'm creating a big circle, rolling in the legs and the hips. So this is moving in towards drunken style snake, or drunken snake style Kung Fu. And drunken style really is very interesting in body efficiency training. You see, again, it does have fighting applications, but really what we're doing is controlled falling. We're trying to use our gravity to move us around, falling here and there. So falling down is the most efficient way to go down, but you have to control it. And then bouncing up again from a spring in the joints is the most efficient way of getting up. So now I'm doing a little bit of a snake flow here. So just totally freestyle, but really I'm concentrating on the legs. I'm not too worried about my arms. I'm trying to feel the alignment in the legs, the twist in the hips, the twist in the ankles, and go up and down all over the place, and it should feel even to me. Whatever height I'm at, it should make no difference. I've got to feel it in the spine and the mobility of the spine. So I'm trying to keep the S-curve, but I am moving the spine. So it's not that your spine is stationary, but you've got to know the midpoint. The midpoint of the spine is the S-curve, and you've got to hold that under tension as you move away from it, so it always springs back. So now this is a tricky thing I'm doing as well here. In my mind I was calling this tiger stance, because it's highly spring loading the legs. So I've got a very strong cantilever in my hips, and as the lower I go, the more I am pushing the hip backwards, or nearly dislocating the hip. And I'm doing the same in the ankle. So I'm always on the ball of the foot, so it's tricky to balance. So I've got to feel the alignment, and I've got to feel the tension in the legs, and I've got to hold the knees tight, so all the mobility comes from the hips and the ankles. And here's a twisting leg stance. So again, you'll see this in Kung Fu a lot, and Tai Chi as well. But really what I'm trying to do here is lock up the hips at the back. So I'm trying to feel a full stretch in the hip joints. And across the back of the hips, in Tai Chi they call this the kwa, or the bridge. So you need to feel the stretch in the joints themselves. The hip joints themselves have got to separate. And then what you've got is a stretch in the tendons around the hip. And that stretch in the tendons gives power to your legs. So again, now moving around randomly into low stances. And I'm just trying to find positions where I've got a spring in the joints. So again, at this height, it should be easy. So I'm not working hard to stay at this height. I'm trying to find a spring in the joints. So I'm literally spring loading the hips and the ankles. And the lower I go, the greater the spring load in the hips and the ankles. And I've got to be very careful that I'm not putting pressure in the knees. You saw me there spring up a little bit. So I spring from the ankles and the hips to move. And now we're moving a little bit more into drunken, oh no, twisting legs again. So more twisting rubber legs get up. And these are a little bit smoother. So you see here, I'm trying to feel the full range of motion of my hip joint, going all the way round, and then squeezing from the core to unwind and go up again. And this little massage of the knees there, very, very important. Learn that, to do that. Every time you lose your legs, loosen up afterwards and massage the knees. Make sure there's no tension left in the knee joint, and you've got to be very careful of the knee joints. So now we're moving a little bit into drunken legs. So you can see now fluidity of motion, going up, going and coming down has got to be easy. Now I'm trying to get the full motion in the hips and the ankles so the legs look like rubber. So it's confusing, but actually this is a very, very efficient and very powerful. And here's another get up. So I'm spring loading from the ball of the foot, the instep. There you see I spring up from the instep, and it'd be nice to go up into a balance straight from here effortlessly, spring up. So I've got a spring in the ankle and a spring in the hips, and I'm pushing the instep into the ground and squeezing the glutes to push the hips forward to bounce up. So it's not the knees. And again, here we go, a little bit more snake flow. So I'm just trying to feel it, get into the groove, as it were. So it is very much like dancing. But I'm trying to feel a flow, a kinetic chain from my spine going outwards. And I'm trying to stay on the ball of my foot. So again, it does look a bit like ballet, but I'm trying to feel random movement all over the place, up, down, mid-range, and whichever way I fall, I've got to find a fluid motion of falling to cushion the fall, and then find a spring to bounce back up again. So again, I'm doing things with the arms, but really I'm trying to feel the legs in these particular sessions I'm showing you here. And again, on the ball of the foot, we'll see a nice arch in the spine, and there's a stretch in the hips. Now, same thing, bouncing, look, in the ankles. And now I'm trying to feel a rhythm, left and right, flow up the spine into the arms. So it's a feeling of a wave, a feeling of a flow, but that wave has got to become a whip. And a whip, when it becomes a whip, there is a transfer of power through that wave. And then that is a very efficient way of moving. So you're accelerating at the end. Now here I've left this little bit of handwork in, but you can see I'm trying to create a whip. A bounce from the ankles, whipping up through the body into a double back fist stroke. I'm not really trying for speed or power yet. I'm still trying for flow. And there must be a transmission of power, hence the bag has got to move. And there you can see I'm increasing the size of the whip. So in a way I'm telegraphing it, and people who are expert in combat will say you're telegraphing, and I know that. But it doesn't matter, I'm telegraphing to maximize the range of motion of the whip. And in time, now here you see me hunching forward, so I am stretching the spine in different ways. But in time, once you've increased the range of motion of the wave and the whip, and you can feel it through every part of the kinetic chain, then that will get faster and faster, and the range of motion can be shorter and smaller. And in time, it will be so fast that there will be no telegraphing, because you're moving from one whip into the next whip. But at this stage, I'm just practicing, so this is not really fighting, but these movements have all got fighting applications. It's really more like martial dancing. And here you can see again, drunken snake, drunken leg work, falling all over the place. I'm dropping down, skipping around. So as I fall, the legs have got to be light to move to the next position, to catch and slow down the fall. But I'm also allowing the fall. So I'm collapsing the legs. I'm letting them fall and relax. So the relaxation collapses the structure, and then you feel gravity. But then you have to find a spring to bounce it back up again. Now this is very interesting. In drunken style, you fall flat on the floor, go to sleep. That's part of the show, but not really. Here I'm trying to take a moment of total relaxation and then get up again. So I'm trying to take a moment to go deep, deep, deep relaxation. lying on the floor. And then the first tension I create is in the core. So here you're watching slow motion. See how I'm falling, twisting, rolling. So the legs look a bit like rubber. But it's not the knee, it's the hips and the ankles. And I'm rolling on the sides of the foot. But what I was saying, as I fall down, you'll see in a minute, it's an important thing to understand because the tension comes from the core. The most important thing is the chi belt, the waist, the TA muscle that pulls the stomach in, and the obliques. And from that point, the tension extends outwards. So now I've gone to the fall, flat on the floor. And although this is part of the show, it's total relaxation for a moment. Now I pull from the core. You see to get up, the stomach pulls in, knee pulls to the elbows, and I'm levering from the psoas muscle only. Arms and legs are still loose. Then I fall down again. Try and take a moment, relaxation. Pull from the core, the psoas muscle, pull in, then the obliques twist me round. I roll, and then I can spring into the ankles. Now I can spring up a bit. So very little work. There is movement here, there is power, but very little effort. Hence the drunken style. You've let go of your will and you've just fallen. You've gone with the flow. Anyway, thank you very much for watching again, and I'll see you in the next video.